you know, this weekend at Maker Faire and in this community in general, there's a lot of Kickstarter projects. This weekend there are going to be about 90 Kickstarter projects that will be showcased here. More than 10% of all the exhibitors that you'll see have done a Kickstarter project before. So it's a really big community, and we're going to have a huge tent ourselves showcasing a lot of great projects. And you're going to be able to come across this just as you're walking in over the weekend. So go look for us. We'll have a lot of people there. We're very friendly. But I was interested today in talking a little bit about kind of a meta layer of Kickstarter. And that's just what it is to try to run a mission-based business, and what it is to have an idea, have it become much more successful than you ever imagined, and knowing how to stay true to the things that you care about, and knowing how to be ethical in everything that you do. And so for us, that's been the most important part of our story. So I'm one of the 3 founders of Kickstarter. These are the 3 folks. There's Charles Adler here on the left, Perry Chin in the middle, and myself there on the right. And we have strange backgrounds and really kind of a strange story for coming at this at all. The original idea for Kickstarter was had by Perry there in the middle in 2001. So 13 years ago now, he wanted to throw a concert in New Orleans and realized he didn't have the money to do it, but thought if he could propose the idea to the public, people could put up their credit cards, and everyone would be charged only if people agreed the show was worth happening. So it was a way for this thing to happen that wouldn't otherwise, that would mitigate any risk for him, as well as any of the people who would support him. But Perry's an artist, and at the time, he was living in New Orleans, making art, working as a recording engineer, not really sure how to make this happen. I mean, this is 2001. There was no Facebook. There was no, there wasn't even Friendster yet then. Maybe there was Friendster. But a different era of the web. In 2005, he moved back to New York, where he grew up, and this is where he met me. We actually met on the last 2 stools here. This is a restaurant in Brooklyn called Diner, where Perry was a waiter and I was a regular. I was a music journalist. I was a rock critic, which is like the lowest of the low. It really is. But I grew up on a farm in rural Virginia, in Appalachia. Graduated college, moved to New York. The only thing I wanted to do was be a writer. I've always loved reading and writing more than anything. And we met here and became friends, and he told me about this idea for Kickstarter. This is in 2005. And it seemed like a great idea, so we decided to start to work on it together. Found Charles, who was a designer. But then we took us 4 years from us getting together in 2005 to 2009 when this thing finally launched. But during that time, there was a lot of phases to go through and a lot of obstacles to overcome. And through all these, what was most important to us was this focus on the core things that we were trying to do. With Kickstarter, it was creative freedom. It was this idea to provide a platform where people could try to do things that they couldn't otherwise. To provide a place where things could get supported just because people wanted them to exist, not because they might want to make money off of it. And that integrity was also important, knowing why it was that we were trying to do this thing. And so during this time, there were many incarnations of Kickstarter. This is the very first design of Kickstarter. This is October 2005. You can still see the Kickstarter page here. You can see every other crowdfunding site in the universe looks like this. But this was 2005, the original concept. Here's a whiteboard in my apartment of Perry and I trying to sketch this out. Here was a slightly better version. This is in 2007 or 2008. You can still see there's no E at the top. Kickstarter, no E, kind of Flickr style. We couldn't afford the E yet. It's true. It's true. And so, you know, it was slowly taking shape over this period of time. But that entire time we were struggling and trying to make this idea a reality, but we're unable to do so because we ourselves were not developers, because we did a poor job of finding people to help us. And so you learned a lot about what it was to be a creator and what it is to be an entrepreneur during that entire process. This is our MySpace widget. As I said, a very different time. So as I think about this, and as I think about where we are now, so Kickstarter's now 5.5 years in. It's over $1 billion has been pledged to the site. More than half of that in the past 12 months alone. This year, by far, the biggest year ever. Just a thing that continues to grow. And we've gone from those 3 people that you see there to now a team of a little over 90 people. And we're just across the Pulaski Bridge in Brooklyn, in Greenpoint. We're in an old pencil factory that we bought and is our permanent headquarters. But as I think about what's guided us through this entire process and what will guide us in the future, there's three really basic things that we keep returning to that just sort of as a first-time CEO talking to people who are maybe more experienced than me or who are doing this for the first time, thinking of what these guardrails are for us that are very important. And the first is to have a mission. And now a lot of missions that you'll see will be quite self-serving, like to be the biggest whatever, which just seems to allow you to do anything you want. But have a mission that really focuses on your purpose. And hopefully this purpose is not about you making money or you just in general being successful, but it's trying to enact some positive change upon the world. For us, our mission is to bring creative projects to life. So we exist to support creativity. This is the idea from the beginning. We want to make it possible for people to make movies and music and put on plays and write books and really just create and have the freedom to do that. And so from the very moment we launched, this was always our focus. This is our launch announcement, April 28th, 2009. That was a Tuesday at 4:27 p.m. So you can see this is very well orchestrated. The site was finally live. And 5 days later, the first project was successfully funded, and this is it. It's called Drawing for Dollars. And a guy said, pledge $5 and you'll get a picture of something that I'll draw for you. And he got 3 backers and $35. This was amazing. We saw the money transact on the back end. It worked. Really, it was. But we kept seeing these incredibly creative things happen through the platform. And it really reaffirmed this value system, this devotion that we had to helping people create. It's a project by a painter here in New York named Molly Dilworth called Paintings for Satellites. And so she paints these giant rooftops, and she funded a series of works. But she paints these where her gallery is not something here in New York, but it's Google Maps. It's these things working on these enormous scales, these very creative ideas coming together in this huge way. And it's just grown and grown and grown, and always on this same track of just supporting creativity. That's all we do. That's what we're all about. And you even see it happen with something crazy like the Coolest Cooler, which just raised $13.2 million a few weeks ago. And this is after, just 6 months ago, being unsuccessful in reaching its funding goal. So this was in December of last year. We came short of its goal. And then two or three weeks ago ends with $13 million pledge. As I said, it keeps getting bigger and bigger. So having that mission and knowing what your intention is, what your focus is so important. It's going to be your guiding star for what you do. The next one is to know who you are. You're going to face a lot of obstacles, a lot of things that will challenge you and be really unclear what to do. There isn't a right or wrong answer. It's simply about how you're going to behave in that sort of moment. And for us, we're a creative organization. This is the group of us, the 90 of us who work together. This is where we come from. Most people at the office are makers or people who have done projects before on Kickstarter. We're all people who deeply appreciate creative things, and this is how we think about things. At any moment of crisis or at any moment where we have to consider who it is and what's important to us, we always return to these sorts of values. We're here for creativity. That's what we're about. And so from the very beginning, again, this has been the case. This is our first office in the Lower East Side. So this was January of 2010. It was a huge deal to get an office. I remember, at this point there are about 5 of us. I remember the dread of adding the second table. It's like, can we handle the second table? And it was a huge deal. Now there's probably 35 tables. But again, there's just this sense of who we were from the very beginning. This is at the time there were 10 of us. We rented a beach house out in Amagansett and Long Island for a week and just worked out there together. And really just trying to really get close with one another and really focus on what we were doing. We're a creative organization in that we throw a film festival. We've thrown film festivals for the past 4 years. Thousands of people will show up and watch movies together, and they're movies by young or less known filmmakers, or just really cool documentaries that have been made through Kickstarter. But this year we did it in New York, LA last weekend, and London next month. And this will reach tens of thousands of people getting together to watch movies together. We're proud to make this happen. And as the team has grown, we've always just been very focused on this mission. I mean, this is the beautiful thing about what we get to do, because ultimately, the time that you're at work, that is still your life. Ideally, you're focusing on something that you believe in and are proud of. and we get to devote our time to something that we care about more than anything else. So really know who you are, and understand what it is that you're about as you go out there as an entrepreneur. And for us, it runs so deep. We love this quote from Barbara Jordan, who is a congresswoman: "The art to not a frill, the art to respond to our individuality and our nature, and help to shape our identity." This process of creating is something that might seem frivolous, and it's certainly viewed that way. But we think it's something that is deeply important, and we want to provide access to for everyone. And the third one of these is know what you value. This is an especially important one, because this will really come in at the moments of crisis that you'll face, where something doesn't go according to plan, and you have to make a decision about how you're going to respond. We've always been very clear about where we stand in terms of this, and that's that we strive to be an organization with impeccable integrity. Integrity is what matters in the long run. If you take shortcuts, if you do shady things, even if you get away with it at the time, you'll find out in the long run. You have to be honest with people, you have to be straight, you have to be transparent. That needs to be the most important value to you. I want to look back at what I've done 30 years from now and be proud of what I did at every step of the way. And as a company, we've really tried to uphold that. Even the funding system itself, all or nothing funding, is built on integrity. It's a creator saying, this is how much money is needed to do this thing. And the system says, okay, you will only receive that money if everyone has agreed that that's worth doing. There's an integrity of a collective decision making. It's the most important trust and safety feature of Kickstarter, is the fact that money only changes hands if that funding goal is reached. It's about that integrity of the creator, the integrity of the backer, and the integrity of the relationship between them. But that extends through many parts of what we do. For instance, we have a public stats page. We've had it for about 3 years now, and it publicly lists every stat that we track: how much money is pledged, how many projects were successful, how many were unsuccessful. It's broken down by category, and this is updated every time we deploy code to the site. So multiple times a day, these numbers will change. You can scroll down and drill down much further. But to us, this is about integrity. Just showing people a sense of how this works, how this doesn't work, and being very open about that. We've also done it in challenging moments. Some of you may remember about 2 years ago, we published a blog post called "Kickstarter is Not a Store," which focused on what we saw as a problematic rise in hardware and product design related projects, using 3D renderings, using product simulations, and basically seeing project videos where you saw no real object. That basically someone could use some software to create some shiny thing, but backers had no way of knowing whether or not it actually existed. And I was trying to study this problem, and I spent about 6 months talking to hardware creators, the people at IDEO and the Stanford D School, and trying to get a sense of this. And everyone agreed that, yeah, 3D renderings, that's just the language of the design industry. And most advertisements you see in magazines are 3D renderings. They're not photos of actual objects. And that really seemed deeply problematic to me. Especially on a system like Kickstarter, where people are not buying things, they're supporting the creation of something. If everything is presented as you are buying this thing that already existed, it creates an expectation that is way out of whack. And it makes it very hard for the creator, because people think they're dealing with Amazon and something's going to be delivered a couple weeks later. And it's very hard for the backer, because so much of what Kickstarter is about supporting something and then watching it come to life and then enjoying whatever the outcome of that is. So Kickstarter's Not a Store for us was a moment of really being very clear about the sort of organization, the sort of platform this is. This is about making, this is about creating things, this is about doing this with high degrees of integrity. And I think this is very important to how backers and creators trust us and trust the platform for what it does. And so these things are very deeply embedded in Kickstarter. We have a mission and philosophy that we think a lot about, where we talk about being focused on what truly matters to our mission by fighting for the right things for the right reasons and by holding ourselves to our highest standards. This, I think, is especially important, and I would encourage everyone to think about what your values are and not to just consider what industry standards are. We live in a strange world where we see ourselves as being so relative to everything else. Someone has some great success and it feels like a failure for you. And it puts us in a weird place where I think we're likely to compromise on our values and we're not following through on the things that we truly believe in. And I think understanding what it is that you value, what it is that you're trying to accomplish, what it is that you're trying to put out in the world is what's going to keep you on that right path. And we need a world where more organizations, more creators are working in that way. I look around and I see way too much of people who have a very short-sighted perspective and a very selfish perspective, and not considering the greater good of basically we're creating a society that we all live in and trying to have a focus on that. So for us as Kickstarter, those are the things that I feel most proud of. You know, there has been great success, $1 billion going to creators. I mean, it's incredible what's happened. But what really matters, I think what underlies that, is how you behave as an organization, how you treat your community, and what are the things that you try to uphold. So to a room of fellow entrepreneurs, I ask you to consider those things. And those things are to have a mission, to know who you are, to know what you value, and return to those things constantly. Use these as guiding lights for you to make decisions, to understand who it is that you are and who it is that you want to be. And for Kickstarter, we help bring creative projects to life. We're a creative organization, and we strive towards impeccable integrity. And that's what we're about. So thank you guys for taking the time to listen, and enjoy your day.